Hello and welcome to our Life and Podcast, now with a new camera, which may or may not be better.
I'm Sonia.
And I'm Matt. How are you doing today, sweetie?
Alright.
So, obviously, one of the things we're trying here is this new camera, but there is going to be a few other things I wish to talk about here before we get started on today's episode. So, the first thing that I want to go over is I actually want to congratulate you, Sonia. As of this recording, Sonia, as some of you might know, has started her own series on the channel.
Spooky Findings. Look it up.
And at least right now, it's been doing pretty good numbers, and I want to congratulate you. And if you have not checked that out and you're somehow watching this instead, please do check it out. Give her a like, share it around, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Second thing I want to get into is maybe a potential name change for this particular show.
The podcast?
As we call it, it's Our Life and Podcast, but as our regular viewers might know, we kind of aren't really a podcast now, because we're, doing it through video and whatnot. And while I would probably like to try out doing things like Spotify and all that eventually, for right now, obviously, this is how we are doing it. So if you think we should change the name to something more suitable, just let me know. Comment below. I just want to take a little bit of a reading here to see what people think. The final thing is I want to put a challenge to you people that are watching right now. You see this mop here?
Oh, good God.
This beard? I don't know how many people may like it. Some people probably don't. They probably wish I'd get rid of it. Well, if you want to get rid of it, here's your challenge. 100 subscribers on this channel by the end of September. If we manage to get to that, then I will cut off all this stuff here. So if you really hate this beard, this hair, then make sure you create your YouTube account if you haven't already and subscribe to this channel. So anyway, now that's all out of the way. Oh, one last thing about that. I will record it and upload it on the channel as well. Maybe live stream it. Who knows? I don't know how to live stream because I've never done it.
I think there's buttons on it or something.
So, today, sorry, I am all over the place. We are going to be continuing some of our workplace horror stories from a few episodes ago. And I do have a few to go over here, but I think Sonia has less overall.
Probably.
So I am going to actually give her the floor to do her stories first.
Well, mine is a continuation of the grocery store I worked at. This wasn't really a complaint, really, or horror. It was more of funny. Well, you guys remember back in the day, like from 2008 to, 2012. I mean, people still do it, but it was bigger back then. Crazy coupon ladies, you know what I'm saying? Well, this crazy coupon group consisted of a man, I'm thinking it was the husband, a daughter, and a mother. Well, they had about 2 or 3 carts, and it was at night, so it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock. So no one was really there. It was going smoothly. What?
No, go ahead.
I'm just getting my bearings straight, okay? It was going smoothly and stuff, and we had to do it we had to break it up so the coupons would actually work, because this particular store had, like a limit. So I was scanning coupons, and they're like, oh, you're over the limit or something like that. So they'd stop that transaction and then start a new one, which would keep their coupons and stuff like that. And they got a lot of food for really cheap, really. But there was this woman that came up, and she knew this group. She was like, oh, what are you guys doing? She's like, oh, we're the crazy coupon group. And she's like, well, you can go ahead of me, because I still have a few carts, and you only have, like, a few groceries. Go ahead of me. And the girl's like, oh, no, I'll wait. And I saw her after a few minutes leave, so I was like, oh, maybe she forgot someone was going to go get it. Well, when I was relieved at 11 o'clock at night, the night shift guy came in, and he's like, why is there a full cart in the aisle? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, yeah. I was like, that must have been where that girl left. What happened was, apparently she didn't take this girl's word and just go in front of her to do her groceries, and then they would have finished. Instead, she just went in the aisle, left almost a full cart, and left. And there was, like, refrigerator items, too. I was like, I didn't even know. Like, she just walked away, and I didn't see her for the rest of the night. I forgot about her because I was doing other shit. So it was just, like, she left a complete cart in the aisle for us to take care of. I'm like, that's pretty sad. Because the girl wasn't being mean about it. She told her, go in front of me. And she knew this girl because she said her name. But I was just like, wow. One more story from the grocery store is when I put in my 2 weeks. You know how you put in your 2 weeks, you get at least the 2 weeks of work. Well, I looked at the next week's schedule and my boss didn't even put me in it. And I was like, I called her up. I'm like, why am I not in next week's schedule? She goes, well, the girls told me you quit. I'm like, yeah, I put in my 2 weeks. Are you not going to give me 2 weeks? She's going, oh, I was like, I gave you a letter that specifically said 2 weeks and all that shit, and like the last day would be this day, so and so. So they're like, okay. So I had a few days, like they called me in or like, oh, can you work this day? I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Well, when payday comes around, well, I think this is what happened basically, is that I wasn't in the system anymore. So I had to wait an extra week to get paid. They had to re-put me in the schedule so I can get paid. So I had to wait. So I had like basically a week of not being paid before I started my next job. And I was like, why the fuck did they completely delete me? I'm like, I mean, I don't know if anyone's had this. Like, I've never had a job where they don't give you the 2 weeks. This is the only job I've had that they didn't give you the 2 weeks. But they completely deleted me before I could even do it, but I don't know. It was just fucking hectic, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so glad I'm leaving this place. Alright, so that was it for the grocery store. My next one was the drugstore, which was a job I had after. This was the thing that wanted me to pull out my hair. I'm sure you guys are all aware of Western Union. You basically go somewhere to send money to some other state. Anyway, this guy was obviously like a farmer or worked something because he was still in his work clothes and he kind of smelled like cow manure. But this guy comes in and he's like, oh, I don't know much about Western Union. And I try to explain to him, I'm like, well, you fill out this form and you send it to wherever there's a Western Union in that state. Like, he had to send it to his daughter or something like that. And he's like, well, it has to be sent to this specific address. I was like, that's not what we do. What we do is anywhere there's a Western Union, like a store, post office, anything like that, that's where they'll get it. So I'm like, it's not going to be at her exact address, but if there's a store nearby that has Western Union, she can just go there and pick up the money and do her thing. I explained this 4 times, and he still did not get it. I was like, you can't, like how Western Union works, you can't just send it to the specific address. You have to send it send it to the state, and wherever she has a Western Union, like I said, in the store, she can pick it up. Well, he got pissed off for some reason, and he leaves saying, well, fuck this, I'll go somewhere with better customer service. And I was like, better customer service? I explained it to you 3 times. I was just like, what the hell?
Yeah, and I bet you comes back to the store the next week anyway.
I don't know. Like, we have so many people that look like this. I couldn't even remember what he looked like. But I was just like saying, how am I doing bad customer service when you can't understand me? Like, I can't make it any more clear. And I did it like 3 times, and I was just explaining, like, if you want to send it to this exact address, do a money order.
Well, money order, yeah, they can mail it out. I had plenty of Western Union issues as well. It's a hotbed for fraud in those places.
Yeah, we had to take like yearly tests about it on like the computer. Just like, well, I don't know if he had to take a test, but we had to watch a video like yearly for it because of money laundering and stuff like that. I understand Western Union is confusing on both ends. But I was like trying to be really nice. I was talking just like this, normal, and I was just explaining it to him. But like, just basically calling me I had stupid customer service because he didn't understand me. I'm like, dude, if you want to send her money that bad, just fucking send a check.
It's like trying to get people to understand they still have to ID them, even though they look like 50, 60 years old.
Yeah.
People, if they want to cause a problem, they're going to find a reason to cause a problem regardless.
But the thing is, it's New York state law, but it's not. We're not the only state that does that. You have to. There's a lot of states where you have to card even if they look over 40. So it doesn't make any sense to me.
I had more of that trouble in Louisiana because people that didn't want to be carded, usually it was because they were up to something more illegal with the stuff they were trying to buy.
Yeah, probably.
But
that's what I mean. Like, we see a bunch of people a day, and we see a bunch of birth dates. Like, we don't care how old you are. We just gotta do it, bruh. It's our job.
they also didn't like. Speaking of Western Union, when it is a place I'll get into briefly on my end. When I worked at one of the stores that I worked at, a truck stop, we did have to card them when they went to do the Western Union, and man, if you think carding for cigarettes and shit's bad, wait until you card someone that you know is probably doing something illegal, and they don't want to give you any of their information. They will break shit.
I don't think we had to card for much. Like, the computer would let us know if we had to see their license, and people are like, oh, okay. I'm like, it's just a precaution. It's just how they do it. I'm like, okay. I didn't, like, there was a couple people like, well, that's stupid, but most of them were just obliged. But I think if it was like over 50, you had to like card them. But if it was only like $20, I don't think they didn't care.
I think we had to card regardless. I think we even had a log where I worked just in case. But granted, it's a lot more frequent back down there for that.
Yeah, like we still carded, but I think if it was only like $20, I don't think they just sent it through. But if it was like over 50, the computer was like, you need to card them. I'm like, okay. Well, this one is not really a story. It's just kind of funny. We were having a special coupon deal. It was in our flyer, and it was like special coupons specifically for that store and all that stuff, like I said in the flyer. Anyway, this girl was buying cards. We had one that was like, if you buy a few Hallmark cards or something, you can get like $1 off or some shit like that. Well, she had one coupon, and she bought like a pile of cards. And I scanned the coupon once, and then I told her total. And she's like, I think the total was only like $2, because I think she only got like 5 cards. But she goes, wait, why haven't you scanned it more than once? I'm like, it's a coupon. You only scan it once because it's a paper trail. Whatever coupons you scan in, that's what they count at the end to get like their credit back or whatever. So I'm like, I can't just sit here and scan the same coupon, and they're going to be wondering where's the other coupon, store coupon or not. Yeah. And she's like, well, it's false advertising, and you just lost yourself a customer. And she like went off in a puff. I saw her 2 days later.
And again, false advertising. I don't know of any place that says redeemable coupon redeemable multiple times. That just seems
That's what
stupid.
I mean. It just said one
item per coupon is usually what it is, or something like that. I think it was like
one item per, or one coupon for customer or something like that. I don't know. Like, the rules were kind of weird, but it never said you can use it multiple times. So I was just like, how's that false advertising? I just thought it was funny. Like, she ran in a huff, and she literally came back like 2 days later. I'm like, oh, a lost customer, huh? Oh, this one pissed me off real bad because, okay. Anyway, it was rush hour, and we had a bunch of people coming in and stuff. And 2 people came in for a passport photo. One, I'm mad.
I apologize in advance to anybody watching this, seeing that fucking fly come around. I am really trying to get it. But continue. Sorry to cut you off.
It's just a fly. Anyway, yeah, they wanted a passport photo. We were not the only ones that did it. We were just the cheapest in town, I think, because, like, the DMV did it. The post office did it. Like, normal for everywhere else. And I was like, it was just me and one other cashier. So I was like, I'm not going to leave her hanging dry for fucking rush hour. So I was like, well, it's going to be a while because, like, we're the only cashiers. And, well, there was one girl that came in, and then shortly after, a guy came in. And she's like, well, I'm first in line. I was here first. And he's like, yeah, that's fine or whatever. They waited like 5 minutes, and they both said, how much long is it going to take? People keep coming in, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, why would you choose rush hour when you had all day to come in here? I don't understand it. Like, yeah, they probably worked, but there's the weekend. Like, you don't get a day off. Like, don't come. Like, they know it was rush hour, especially if they're from where we from.
Where we from?
Where we from, yeah. Well, I finally got an extra help because I think, like, the extra supervisor, because she was doing her own stuff, too, came up. Or I called her or something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry for the wait and everything. But they were giving me attitude, like, well, it shouldn't have took that long, or you should get blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whatever. But, so what we do where I was working, we take the picture, and it's, you know how passports are. I don't know if it's everywhere. I'm pretty sure. They're really strict. Like, it's got to be your shoulders up. You can't wear glasses.
Yeah,
you can't smile. All that good stuff. Well, I took the girl's photo. She didn't like it. So, I had to take it at least once or twice, and I was like, oh my god. And she's like, I don't like how it looks. So I had to take it again, and the kiosk that we had, like, had a section for passport photos, so you could, like, make it perfect and align right. So I got her done, it printed, she paid for it, she was gone. The guy, quick, like, I took the picture, he's like, yeah, this look good, I did the thing, printed it, he was gone. He was a lot nicer. The girl was so kind of snippy, but I was just like, the whole time, it's like they were just like, they're just gonna keep coming in, blah blah. Again, you had all day, you chose rush hour to come in. It's like, we're not the only one that does it. Like, DMV, post office, freaking other stores, and it's just like, it pissed me royal off, because like, they were trying to give me shit. Like, I was being nice. It's like, don't fucking come during rush hour. Alright, my next one, I'm just gonna call it a novelty store when we were living in Louisiana. Well, a group of guys were trying to pick a fight with my coworker, and he was kind of like the rocker type, long hair and all that stuff. But it was near Halloween. I don't know what happened, because in the store, each, like, corner we stood, because we usually had like 4 or 5 people on, there'd be like 1 or 2 on cash register. But if they didn't have a line or didn't have anyone in cashier, they would stand in, like, the walkway, because they had shoplifters a lot up there. So it was like, the back corners, the front corners, and like the middle, everyone would watch. Like, we'd have to, like, watch on the hawk because of shoplifting and stuff like that, and to make sure we can tell, like, if they needed help, all that good stuff. That's all he was doing. Like, he didn't say anything to this group of guys. Like, they just picked a fight with him, like, oh, we'll see you in the parking lot. So we're like, well, you should wait here, because they had the buddy system where you have to, when you're done with your shift, to walk out with someone. So they're like, well, wait, just like when you clock out, but hang out a little bit or whatever, and I'll walk with you or something like that. Well, he clocked out. He did wait a little while, and he's like, oh, fuck it, I'll just go to my car, because he bought something. He was like, I'll just drop it off, and I'll come back if anything happens. So he does that, comes back, and he said, like, I don't know if they were gone yet, but they were, like, way off. Like, he didn't see them. And I was like, why the hell did they even pick a fight with you? Another thing at this store, it was, like, closing time. We had, like, 5 to 10 minutes left to closing. And he just walked around the store, like, really slow, gawking at everything. And I was just like, are you sure this is the right store for you? Because he didn't have anyone with him, and he was kind of an older guy. And we had to stay probably like an extra 5 or 10 minutes, because like we closed the doors. But I was just like, I was surprised he even bought anything, but we had to be late because of him. And the last thing from this was not really, well, some people would probably be like, oh, that's creepy, blah blah, but it wasn't that big of a deal to me. But 2 guys came in, and they were giggling and whispering and walking around. They came a little closer to me, and one of them kind of looked at me and was like, man, you're cute, you're gorgeous. And I was like, thanks.
Well, that's definitely happened twice to me. I know, hard to believe. That's definitely more of a female problem, I would say, working in any environment, especially retail, because
that was the only time that I've ever been hit on.
Well, people I've worked with have been hit on constantly. Maybe, I guess you just got lucky.
I mean, I got hit on, don't get me wrong, but as working in these stores, I've never been hit on as while I was working. And the last thing is just the thing that pissed me off. I worked in a kitchen, And if you needed a day off, you had to find your own help for them. Instead of them trying to find someone to fill a spot for you, you had to do it yourself. And I thought that was not cool. It's like, no, I can't work. Why do I have to find my replacement? Isn't that your job? Like, what the fuck? You just sit in this office all day and do nothing.
Yeah, I'm actually going to piggyback off of you on that one, because the same place that Sonya's talking about, I actually worked at briefly. And it does kind of tie in a little bit to my job story. I really got to stop moving this damn table. My job stories. When I worked there, I had the same issue. They said I did a no-call, no-show one time because they had this system, like she said, where you had to find your own help. And I was under the impression that the person was going to cover my shift. And they never said that, even though you had to find your own help, they never once told me you had to report it back to anybody. I don't even think that was a thing you had to do. Was to be like, hey, my shift's covered, tell them.
I always made sure, I'm like, hey, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I was like, my pink slip's not up here anymore, so someone must have took it.
And I think one of the reasons probably is what happened to me, because they said I no-called, no-showed, and I almost got in trouble, and I'm like, no, someone took my shift. I don't know who, but someone took it.
That's what happened. There's no communication at that job, and it happened to one of my coworkers. He's like, my slip wasn't up there and someone took it. So
to clarify what Sonya's talking about, because I don't know, I might have just glazed over that part. No. How you found your help was there was like a bulletin board you put a slip over.
Yeah, it's saying
people would pick it up.
This day and this day and this time frame needs to be covered, and like they can just pick it up, write their name on it, and show it to the boss. But that always didn't work because half the time your slips got lost. Which,
you mentioned the communication at this job, and that actually is something that led to me losing my job there, because people didn't talk to each other. And what happened was my mother had passed away while I was working there, but it happened right between the end of one semester and the beginning of another one. And I had mentioned to at least one person, one of the managers there, I wasn't going to be there because of obvious reasons. You know, I had to go out of state for the funeral and whatnot. Story for a different podcast. But when I got back, I tried to go back to work, and they told me that they had basically filled my position. My position wasn't there because, as far as they knew, I just didn't return to work, which was a load of shit, but whatever, I moved on from that job anyway. For me, okay, so I'm going to go over a couple of these, really quick. I worked at a big box retailer, as I was going to say, and I was hired on as seasonal help, which is layman's term for I'm working Black Friday. I do remember, in this case, they did pay me a little extra to work Black Friday, probably a little more than you would get normally, time and a half or something like that.
You're supposed to.
But waking up at before the ass crack of dawn, 4 in the morning, to go in there and stop a bunch of people from fighting over TVs. I wasn't even on a register because I wouldn't say new, but I was new enough where they didn't trust me to be on the register for all that shit. So I was basically security help. I wasn't quite security, but I had to make sure people weren't stealing shit. Never again. I would never work retail again if I could avoid it anyway, but never again on Black Friday. But there's a couple other jobs in between. The college job, I worked at a restaurant, which was talked about mostly in, I think the last video we mentioned what happened with that job.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to pick up when I started working for an insurance company. And I did this in Louisiana. It was the reason we moved to Louisiana back a few years ago was so I could work for said insurance company. And to begin with, I had to pay for my own training, training, licensing, and all that. And I think I ended up paying out like $200 to $500, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Just so I could take the testing and all that. And I did the training down in Louisiana. And I started working for this insurance company. And as it turned out, we had to move again because it basically took too long for me to go through all the training programs and get my first check from this job. So we basically got kicked out from where we were living, and our only option was to return to New York. So we returned to New York, and luckily for me, this is a national chain, a national company, and I was actually able to continue working up here, if you want to call it that. So the kind of sales this insurance company does is door to door. Had to go to businesses, cold call, and try to get some sort of traction for sales. I don't know if you've ever lived. I know there's people that are watching this that have lived in the area that we're in. But most of the jobs up here do not want to provide insurance for their employees, where they keep them underneath the full-time banner, keeping them as part-time workers for that very reason, so they don't have to provide insurance. So trying to sell insurance up here to any of the businesses, and let alone any individuals, was impossible. I made, through this whole job, I worked there 6 months, I would say, 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
And I made one big paycheck for about $1,500 or $1,600, which was what I did, the work I did in Louisiana. The work I did up here in New York, not a penny. Nothing. So, needless to say, it wasn't a profitable job, and yeah.
Something was brewing.
That thing that was brewing, obviously, was our little guy. And I needed a job that would actually pay money. So I started looking around and eventually got hired at another taco place, ironically, that closed down. Basically, almost immediately after I got hired. And I think people that are from this area know what it is. And then, immediately after that, I got hired at a hotel, which, to this day, I will say was my favorite job that I've had. For many reasons. The first reason being that when I was working there, it wasn't too restrictive on how I did my work. I always worked by myself, so I could do it at my own pace as long as everything was done. Sorry. The freedom was good, but I guess it was just a very relaxed, laid-back job was what I was going for. Which, while I still had things that I did that are par for the course, like cleaning, money management, shit like that, it never felt too overbearing. Except for my boss and the construction going on. The construction, just a quick note, was going on in this hotel while I was working.
That's because they were renovating it.
And it was hard to breathe sometimes because of the way dust was flying in the air and things of that nature. And it was also very noisy sometimes, especially during the day shift. Night shift, overnight, nothing was going on, so it was a lot more quiet, thank God. Because I'd hate to have heard the complaints from customers that already complained a lot there. But my boss, as we covered in Sonia's pregnancy video, probably I'll put it up somewhere if I can figure it out. He didn't want me gone at all because he underhired people. He didn't have many people to cover when one person was out. He basically had at most 2 people per shift that he had working that shift. So if one person called out or had an emergency or anything like that and the other person was unavailable, he would pick up the shift. Which I understand that would suck, but that underhiring shit hurt when I had to be there for Sonia for her hospital visits and for the birth of my child.
Yeah, which we did kind of skirt over in the pregnancy one.
Because he didn't want me gone for any period of time at all during that. When Sonia had the baby, he didn't even congratulate us on the baby. He wanted to know when I'd be back to work. And it's that kind of shit that drives me nuts about work in general. And I will get into that a little bit at the end of this video. But I do want to talk about more of the positive and funny aspects of this. A lot of sex.
What?
Not for me. Let's chill. Let's chill. It's not for me. But I did...
No, I'm just saying what?
Well, there was this couple that was a couple...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you remember it now. There was a couple rooms down from the front desk. And we had people that actually walked in to check in at the hotel, and all you could hear were the moans of the people a couple rooms down. And
all I gotta say is, how fucking loud were they?
They were loud enough where I could hear them on the other side of the hallway.
Yeah, that's bad.
And I had to say something to them. I had to knock on their door and be like, hey, can you keep it down? And that was super awkward because they didn't answer the door. So I had to kind of just slide a note under the door, which I'm sure was 100% ignored.
Was it their honeymoon?
I have no idea. But I remember people coming in with children and hearing, you know, from down the hall. And I'd be like, I'm sorry, I tried to take care of the situation.
You should have tried calling the room.
So, that was one incident that involved, I guess, naked women. There's a second one, which I don't... You might not remember, but I did tell you.
Probably.
There was this one girl who somehow locked herself out of her her room. And she came down to the desk to get a key or to have me unlock the door. I'm still not sure how, but all she was wearing was a towel. I don't know if she ran down to the pool, because the pool was just down the hall from her room, and grabbed a towel, or what the situation was to walk out of the room naked. But it did happen, and it was very, another one of those interesting moments that...
She must have been on the camera. They have hallway cameras?
We didn't have cameras at the time. Because of the construction going on, all the cameras were gone. So I couldn't tell you anything more than the situation as it played out. But that's pretty much it for the hotel. I've said my piece about it. I actually do have one other one that has a lot of stories involved with it. But I noticed we are running long, so I will just wrap up with one thing here, and I might go back to that at a different time. What I want to wrap up with here is something I kind of said before. I can't stand the workplace mentality that is in place right now in America. And again, it could be in pretty much anywhere in the world. I'm just using America because that's where I live. But the fact that the people that work for you are commodities, they're tools that you use, and you don't treat them as people, it drives me nuts. It really does.
Capitalism at its finest.
Because one of the things where we live that people will do is they will hire you on as part-time, let's say. Because again, if you're part-time, they don't have to provide you with any insurance. They'll hire you on as part-time, expect you to work overtime, and then if you say anything about the fact that you're working regularly overtime to anybody and get them in trouble, all they do, instead of bumping you up to full-time and giving you the benefits, is they'll cut everybody's hours. Because it's more important to them to save $1 than to care for their employees. Places like McDonald's trying to increase the wage to entice people to come in.
And that's not working.
Well, what's going to happen there is the same thing. One, it'll probably be temporary. And two, when people go into these jobs expecting their $15 an hour, they're going to end up getting their hours cut so drastically because they're going to end up overhiring so that they don't have to pay out that wage, or at least it doesn't seem like they have to pay out as much, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So in other words, that $15 an hour don't mean shit when you're getting like 5 hours a week. Why I personally hate places like retail, fast food and all that stuff. And I think they're terrible jobs because you get treated horribly by both the management and the customers for very little pay, and they expect you to stay loyal. Whatever. And I will also say one last thing. To the people that are in these jobs and think that they are stuck in these jobs, you are not. There are education barriers, but even with that, there are better jobs out there. Jobs that will probably pay better, or at least treat you better than where you are. Because even though I'm bitching about the way jobs, especially those jobs in general, are, there are good jobs out there. There are places that will treat you better. So, don't settle. Just don't. You can do better. There is shit out there for you. Unless you're like a pedophile or a murderer. Stay at McDonald's. Actually, I don't want you touching my food. But
no, they don't hire people like that. Usually.
Anyway, I didn't come up with a fucking question for this week. I just realized that.
Uh-huh.
You got anything?
What's your favorite childhood memory? Unless that's too deep for you.
No, I think one of my favorite memories, which, spoiler alert, might come up in some different episode also, was actually when I got my Super Nintendo. Because, either that or the N64. But when I got the Super Nintendo, I remember putting in Super Mario All-Stars and like being super excited to play that because I had wanted that game basically all year. And then I put it in the Super Nintendo. I played for like 10 minutes, ended up falling asleep with the Nintendo on.
Mine would be... Hold on, gotta stretch. Okay. Mine would be not every Friday night, but at least one Friday night a month, we would get frozen pizzas and rent like 2 or 3 movies, and we'd have a movie night with all of us, my siblings and my parents. It's awesome.
Well, thank you guys for watching. I hope this new format works. It's gonna, just like everything we've done on this channel so far, there's some tweaks, kinks to work out. But even so, like, comment, subscribe, especially subscribe, share this video around. Remember, 100. Until next time, thanks for watching. Hey everybody, this is Matt here. I just want to thank everybody for watching. If you like what you saw, please go ahead and click on that subscribe button. And for another video, go ahead and click one of those videos here in whatever corner it's in.